Today I'm going to do a review on the new Seafrogs A6xxx salted line series underwater housing. Just as a quick disclaimer, I wanted to reassure people that this is not a paid review. This is my own thoughts as a photographer using this gear underwater. It's great value for money, it's perfectly safe, and I highly recommend it to anybody and everybody who's interested in getting into underwater photography. Thanks for listening, hope you enjoy the clip. I've been a professional photographer for 15 years. I was a military photographer for a long time and a professional photographer in Hong Kong, shooting commercial projects all around the world, a lot of motorsports, portrait church, studio, all that kind of stuff. Since I've lived here, I've took a big interest in water sports and diving in particular. And what I want to talk about today is Seafrogs, based in Hong Kong. I'm going to show you the housings and the features and reassure you of the quality. The A6xxx series, for the A6 series of Sony cameras, in particular the 6000, the 6300 and the one I'm personally using, which is the 6500. We've got two of the housings here which we're going to show you, one with the dome port and one with the flat port, obviously for different kinds of lenses. Just as a small sample of lenses that can work, me personally I'm using the 10 to 18. You can also use fisheye converter lenses and ultra wide converter lenses, and those two can be paired with the Sony 16 2.8 E-mount and the 20 2.8. You can interchange them however you want. Obviously certain lenses on certain ports need to be changed to fit, but they also work. So super light, super small, super wide, absolutely perfect for underwater photographers. Depth rating on these, 60 meters. The prices for these cameras, they are cheap, okay? Don't be off put by the price. The quality is amazing. And as I said, we've been using these in the sea for 15 dives in the last 4 or 5 days. And absolutely zero problems. We had, I think, 12 or 15 housings, all different Sony cameras, and not a single issue with any of them. Down to 20 meters plus we were shooting, no worries. On these housings, you have full camera control. You can change all the settings on the camera. Something that I love personally with my 10 to 18 is there is a zoom ring that goes inside, and we can actually change the focal length while we're underwater, which is, again, fantastic feature to have. Surf photographers find this housing amazing also. My friend Christian does a lot of that kind of photography, and he uses the pistol grip, which has the trigger to fire the shutter on the front. Obviously it goes on the bottom with an O-ring. It's just a brilliant small form piece of gear. He uses a bodyboard leash on his arm in case he obviously loses it in the surf, but he's raving and raving and raving about it. So when you go underwater, the underwater trays are obviously very useful. That just bolts onto the bottom of the camera like so, and then you can either use it for stability to help with your buoyancy. Then you can of course attach lights with these standard mounts which fit many kinds of lights. Personally, I've been shooting this week mostly without lights just to see how it goes and obviously get more experience with the system. Although I do own a set of high-powered lights which I'll be using a lot more in the future. So with the housing, we've got double clips on the sides, we've got two O-rings inside, back and front. The lens mounts themselves obviously have O-rings and everything, so they're super secure and watertight. We just put a little bit of silicone grease around the O-rings before we dive, making sure they're clean. Now the cool feature that I love is the vacuum pump system. This is usually seen on much more expensive dive housings. You take the air out with the pump, creates a vacuum and just makes it super tight. Once that's done, the light on the vacuum pump system will go green. Again, this is just an additional reassurance that everything is watertight. Talking about the vacuum pump system, this is actually an additional accessory. I'm not saying you need it, but I would just highly recommend it. An additional safety measure inside, which has been on the models from day one, is a water sensor. So we tap that with a bit of a wet finger, you'll hear the alarm. So you have the double O-rings on the body, O-rings on everything that can come off, i.e. lens mount and the base for the trigger if you need it. And then you have the alarm system and your vacuum system. This is super safety orientated. Really good, works perfect. One last thing that I forgot to mention earlier is the viewfinder. So you can get in there close and use the viewfinder in a traditional sense. Hopefully that gives you enough introduction to reassure you that this is a really great bit of kit. Highly recommended. Impossible to beat the price, absolutely impossible. There literally is no dive cases on the market in this price range. So take a good look at it, and if you own a Sony system, they have a housing for all those cameras. I believe they also do housings again for Fuji X system and for iPhones even. So check out their gear, they're really cool and highly recommend their gear.